Hello everyone, it's Father Brett here, and I just wanted to share some thoughts with you at the start of this new year. The holidays are receding and things are getting back to normal as far as school and work, and the year is slowly starting to move. So I thought it would be a good time to share some thoughts and to maybe encourage some reflection amongst all of us regarding our discipleship and our church membership. Over Christmas and Epiphany, things were rather chaotic, weren't they? Here in the parish, we had all things planned for Christmas, and then I tested positive for COVID and had to go into isolation, and so Father Malusi and Father Pierre had to go into quarantine, and so all our Christmas plans were sort of put on their head. Then the government changed everything and we were allowed out of isolation and quarantine on Christmas Eve. So all our plans, we tried to resurrect them a little bit, but it was difficult. And many of you had made bookings in other parishes to make sure you were able to get to a Christmas Mass. And so attendance at the Christmas Masses was low, was poor. Unfortunately, that sort of pattern followed through the octave of Easter and into the Epiphany. That hurt me, saddened me, frustrated me a little bit, made me a little cross too. And so my sermon on the Feast of the Baptism of the Lord spoke about what is it that we're seeking as disciples of the Lord. You'll remember I spoke about cheap grace and costly grace. I hope that, like me, we're seeking salvation. You're seeking salvation. You want a life with God. You want to be a disciple of Jesus. I hope that's what you want. That's your choice. That's what you feel called to. And if that is true, and if that is what you want, then, like all of us, if we want something and we value something enough, we've got to work to achieve that. We've got to put our money where our mouths are, and we've got to make a real commitment to living as a disciple of Jesus, journeying towards the kingdom, building the kingdom for ourselves and for others. It's no good saying, oh yes, I would like to be saved, yes, I want to spend eternity with the Lord, and yet I'm not really bothered about how that's going to happen. And so we've got to, as I said in my sermon, be willing to pay the price of discipleship. And I think Dietrich Bonhoeffer spoke powerfully to the people of his time, but to the people of our time, about discipleship. Remember, he spoke about discipleship at a hugely difficult time in the history of the world. It's the Second World War. Nazi domination, concentration camps, death, destruction. And maybe, well, we're not living through another war, a world war, but COVID has placed enormous stresses on our society. And there is a lot of death and sickness and uncertainty and fear, loss of jobs. And so I think what Dietrich Bonhoeffer had to say to the people of the 1940s, relevant to us now in the 2020s. Dear friends, it is really important for us to understand what I have said throughout this process of COVID, lockdowns, restrictions, that we have to work extra hard at our discipleship. It now is a really, really important time for the church, for us as Christian disciples. What kind of church are we building? What kind of church are we showing the world? And so I think it's really providential, the work of the Spirit, that Pope Francis is calling us as the universal church to look at what it means to be church through this whole synod process, that we each and every one of us reflect on what salvation means for us as individuals, but for us as a community, and how does the community, the church, assist and grow the kingdom in these difficult times? How can we invite others to discipleship at this difficult time? I'd like to read from the second reading for the second Sunday of Ordinary Time, ESC. And so that's this coming Sunday. This is not sermon prep. Father Malusi will do that because he's preaching. But I think it speaks to us powerfully. It builds on what I spoke about last Sunday. Okay? It's from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 12. There are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are variety of services, but the same Lord. And there are varieties of working, but it is the same God who inspires them all in every one. Every one of us has been given a gift, more than one gift, I'm sure, by the Spirit, for the working of the church, the spread of the gospel. It's something I say often, but it's what St. Paul says, what the church has always said. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. We believe that the Spirit has been poured into our hearts. We've been gifted with the Spirit for others, for the church, for the salvation of the world. To one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom, and to another the utterance of knowledge, according to the same Spirit. To another faith by the same Spirit. To another gifts of healing by the one Spirit. To another the working of miracles. To another prophecy. To another the ability to distinguish between spirits. To another various kinds of tongues. To another the interpretation of tongues. All these are inspired by the one and same Spirit, who apportions to each one individually as he wills. And so the kingdom of God, the growth of this parish, that this parish becomes a dynamic, happy, vibrant, spiritual place, is not dependent upon me alone. I can't do it alone. I can't even do it just with Father Malusi. It's for all of us to do. We have all got gifts of the Spirit for the building up of this community. And so we need to reflect on our discipleship and how that will play out, what that will mean in the year ahead. And perhaps not only this year, 2022, but perhaps into the future too, as it will take a long time for us to work out the church in the post-COVID reality. If we look around ourselves, there is real hurt and pain and suffering in our world, in our communities. There is wholesale political turmoil and corruption. The economy is really struggling. And that's not only in South Africa, that's all over the world. And so we must be thinking, how does my faith, how does my discipleship impact and affect this world in which I live? That's the question Dietrich Bonhoeffer asked in the world of the Second World War. And we've got to ask the same question. Dear friends, it's not just about coming to Mass. That's not all it's about. It's about much more than that, isn't it? It's about our discipleship. It's about our expectations as Catholic Christians in living our discipleship. And you know, here in this parish, we've spoken about those 5 expectations. And we really must, at this time now, I think it's crunch time, we really need to take seriously, am I willing to pay the cost, to live those 5 expectations, to make a difference in my world, in my parish, in my community, or am I not? Mass attendance is a reflection of my commitment, isn't it? It's a sign to the world. It's a sign to myself. It's a sign to the Lord that, yeah, I'm on board. I want to make a difference. And, you know, I did mention about social media and live streaming and things in my sermon on Sunday, the baptism of the Lord, and also in the announcements. As you know, I'm a great believer. Here I am using it, so you know I'm a believer in social media, and what a powerful tool it is for us in the church to proclaim the gospel, to stay connected. And here in the parish, we will not turn our social media off, but we've got to work out how we use it. Yes, there's learning for me and Father Malusi in how we use it in connecting with you, but also there is learning for you in how you connect with us and the rest of the community. Is watching Mass online the best way for you? There will be times when, yes, it is, and maybe when it is the only way. But I think we need to consider the other ways of connecting and realize that it's not just through social media, that we can use social media within a broader context of connecting and participation, that there needs to be, as well as the online connection and presence, there needs to be the physical as well. What are you, what am I willing to bring to that? How do we think we're going to balance those two in our own lives, in our own discipleship? I believe this is a gift, one of the gifts that we've been given, social media. Imagine if we didn't have it during this time. Imagine if you couldn't see me now. Well, some might say that was a good thing, but you know what I mean. It's a positive. It does help. I know, with my brother living overseas, my niece overseas, it's great to have a video call with them, to see them as well as to hear them. And it's so cheap. It's so easy. But if someone offered me an opportunity to go and sit with my brother at his local pub, the Hare and the Hound, I would grab it. Because there's nothing nicer than sitting face to face with my brother and his family, sharing a meal, having a drink, laughing. That is far superior. Far superior. And the same is true of the Eucharist. Same is true of the Eucharist. Let's grab the opportunities we have to come together face to face, to share a meal with one another, to experience the gift of the Spirit together. Let's not just limit ourselves to online connection and worship, however helpful it is and has been. Dear friends, these are some thoughts that I'd like to share with you. I'd like to encourage you to come back to Mass. I'd like you to encourage you to revisit your commitment to in-person connection, relationships within the parish. I'd also like you to consider your discipleship. What does it mean going forward? How are you going to live as disciples in this coming year and going forward? I'd like you to consider the gifts you have been given. That's the dog, by the way. I'd like you to consider how you're going to use the gifts you have been given for the common good, for all of us, for the growth of God's kingdom. And I'd like you to finally to consider what that kingdom means for you, what discipleship means for you, what eternal salvation means to you, and how do you value it, and how do you want to live in its hope going forward. These are some of the ideas that I've had, and they've been mulling over. I've been mulling them over in my head. That's what I sort of do in the first bit of the year. It's quiet, the office is closed, and it gives me time to think and reflect and to listen to the Spirit, which perhaps sometimes I don't do so well in the craziness of the year once it's got going. I'm happy to listen to your ideas too. So if you'd like to post some comments, if you'd like to email me, if you'd like to come and see me, make an appointment, you're welcome to do that. Come and see me about some things, some challenges and ideas perhaps that you have. But I hope these thoughts and ideas that I have shared with you will help us to grow together. Okay? Take care, everyone. Look after yourselves. God bless. Bye-bye.